So, I guess that's why they're called the Barbarians. What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. So, England have just finished their game versus the Barbarians, and what a game it was. I really wasn't expecting it to turn out the way it did. There's going to be an awful lot to talk about. So as we do in these match reports, what we'll do is we'll go through the entire game. We'll chuck some graphics over here so that you guys can see what happened during the first half, and then in the second half, we'll go over all the key events, the scores, the tries, how it all came together. We'll go through thoughts on the end of each half, and finally what this means going forwards for the England team. So starting off, I actually didn't know a lot about this game going into it. It completely flew under the radar, but for me, I've been doing so many videos around the July internationals, and looking at the teams just before it kicked off, it looked like a slightly less experienced England team. A couple of big names in there, but a couple of new lads trying to get their way in. I did look at this betting beforehand, and it looked like England were pretty much favourites going in across the board. It was anywhere from 6 to 11 points was what England was expected to win by before the game kicked off. But looking at the Barbarians team, I did think the Barbarians team looked quite massive, to be fair, especially when you got Galtier as the coach going in and Sean Edwards as the defence coach. I really thought with a lot of the French players that they play with constantly, this was going to be quite a tight game. I was expecting it to end up being a bit more like an England versus France game. So we'll start off with the first half. Now, Barbarians actually got off and underway slightly quicker. They seemed to be dominating the scrums, and in fact that was a theme that carried on for most of the games. The Barbarians seemed to have a bit of dominance in that first half in terms of the scrummaging area, definitely winning a couple of penalties at scrum time area and breakdown areas as well, to be fair. England certainly began to struggle a little bit under that. However, the remainder of that first 10 minutes, I would probably say, was all England. Realistically, it was being able to be opened up a little bit. Marcus Smith certainly running the show. I certainly think most people would have Marcus Smith down as man of the match for England in this game. He felt a lot of time throughout the game like England's really only sort of attacking option. He was the one creating basically everything in this game, but I certainly think he played well. A couple of really nice kicks. I've got written down here that the Barbarians' defence was pretty dog-legged. There was an awful lot of times where Marcus Smith was doing a shoe and go, and 3 players from the Barbarians team were running out of the line. I bet Sean Edwards would have been ripping any hair he has left back out of his head. But I think England certainly tried to take their chances. They didn't really play the game like a test match in the first half. It slowly began to develop into a test match later on. People wanted to see the Barbarians game. It was all going to be expansive, a bunch of tries and what have you. So it certainly started going that way. So they had a couple of early penalty kicks. They kept going for the corner, but they didn't actually manage to sort of turn that into any points. It's a bit of a shame. They had a couple of penalties. They actually had 3 penalties in a row here. I got one in the 7-minute and the 10-minute and another one off feet. There was a couple of issues going on there. England go into corner, but the Barbarians are able to deal with that line-out pretty well. A couple of big names in that Barbarians line-out really looking to show off, really gave England a lot of issues there. After some back and 2 penalties, we actually got to the first score of the game. The first score didn't actually come until the 16th minute, so quite late on, especially like a Barbarians game where we expected to be a bit open. We had Marcus Smith getting the first penalty of the game, taking England to 3-0 from an Olivon being offside. I fully agree with the referee. The refereeing was quite good in this game. They didn't really miss too much, and they were pretty consistent with how they were reffing the game. There was a couple of things that I probably disagree with them on, but I think that was a fair penalty, so 3-0 there. The Barbs came straight back, though, 2 minutes later, scoring the first try of the game. Now, the Barbarians are on a big attack straight from the kickoff, which was really nice to see. Vakatawa actually managing to get right in that corner, but did have his try disallowed, so he went back for an earlier penalty, which was Johnny May doing a purposeful, intentional knock-on, which, you know, obviously not allowed to do. The referees did view it as there was a man on the overlap, and therefore it was a yellow card to Johnny May, but also a penalty try. I did see it when it happened live. I sort of called, I was like, yeah, that's a penalty. There's definitely a penalty going there. Penalty try, I still think there was quite a lot of room. It certainly wasn't necessarily a walkover try, but I think with that man overlap and the way the rules are, I probably think the penalty try was probably the correct call. Johnny May just left in no man's land, had to react, so a bit of a shame for him there. England certainly struggled after that as well. They really struggled to get into this game. That first 10 minutes was probably one of the better portions of this first half for England. There was a lot of penalties, again, issues going in just sort of all over the field, just a bit of experience lacking. There was another penalty in the 20th minute that came from Thokana Singer performing a tackle in the air. Very clever move by the Barbarians, lad, just to keep your legs up in the air. Make sure he gets that tackle in the air. An easy penalty there. England did actually get back on the attack after that. They were looking good. They were slowly beginning to go through the phases. It just felt like they were trying to create something out of nothing a lot of the time in that attack in the first half. They were really trying to play wildly expansive rather than just going through the phases, which was, I think, was a bit of their downfall in that first half, which actually led to seeing Olivon picking up an incredible interception, running a good, I'd probably say 70 metres up the field, running all the way down the field, being chased pretty well. I think it was Harry Randall was chasing him. Gave a great effort in terms of the chase, just not managing to get the tackle at the end, and went over for the try. The try was awarded instantly, which was a bit of a surprise. It was a really good tackle by Harry Randall. I did feel he tackled Olivon quite high, though, was the only thing. I thought if the try wasn't allowed, you could well be looking at a penalty try, because he did tackle quite high at the back of the neck in order to stop Olivons from scoring if he didn't score. But on the TMO replay, you could just see the ball getting down. So I agree, fair try there. And Hastoy got a conversion. Now, conversions you'll see through this game is not something we'll be seeing a lot from, unless you're George Kruis. It's not a typo. That's genuinely George Kruis. In the 26 minutes, I think England began to take it a bit more seriously. They did get another penalty in 26 minutes for the Barbarians, just holding on to the ball, not releasing. Marcus Smith did take a kick at the posts, but another miss. Now, kicking was a big area in this game. Didn't really go right for either team in terms of the penalties. England were really struggling a little bit with the kicking generally. I think Marcus Smith was 2 out of 6 in the end, which, for Marcus Smith is quite low. George Kruis was the only person really smashing through the kicks all day. There was a chance for another try in the 31st minute coming from the Barbarians. There was a little bit of a knock-on, and they made another fantastic break. Damien Pinot just breaking through the line, making huge ground, was really nice to see. Unfortunately, there was quite a poor pass from Hastoy, trying to get the offload over the shoulder, not really looking where your support runners are, went through the middle of 2 players, bit of a knock-on, didn't come to anything, but could have potentially been something there. There was then another penalty in the 34th minute. So again, these penalties are quite consistent for both teams. They're for a range of different things. England's penalties tend to be at the breakdowns. This was Bottier tackle off the ball, and that time Marcus Smith did actually manage to get that kick over. So, just before half-time, we were looking there. It was 14-16 to the Barbarians, and it felt relatively earned, to be fair. England did manage to get a try just before half-time. It was, I'd say, the worst defence probably of the half for me. In terms of the Barbarians, they seemed very all over the place. They were just sort of kicking the ball back up the field. The forwards had quite clearly been told, if a kick's coming from your backfield, to hold position and let your fullback run up to put you all onside. They didn't really sort of stick to that, which was a bit of a shame. The fullback was kicking the ball and jogging upwards, when so many of the forwards were offside. They couldn't engage in the tackle, and we just saw players running through. Thockenham Singer managed to get his try. Tommy Freeman was actually the one who made his way through the line there. Made a fantastic little break, offload to Thockenham Singer, and over for the try. And also at the same time, just to put double damage on this Barbarian side, we see Will Skelton getting a red card. We cut back to it, and I don't even know what sort of happened there. The player knocked on the ball, who had the ball, and Will Skelton came in and basically just shoulder charged him in the face. I'm not sure whether he'd pulled out because he saw the knock on and pulled out, but it was quite clear, a shoulder to the head. I don't know why he did it. And given the letter of the law, I know Will Skelton's a big guy anyway. Will Skelton must be easily 6'7", 6'8". Hard for him to mitigate down to a yellow card from that. He was stood pretty upright as well. Shoulder to the head, red card. It's hard in games like these, because I really thought that red card was going to ruin the game. I really thought, especially with a game like it is when you play the Barbarians, you're trying to explore what your team can offer, you're trying to explore what players have, and I really thought a red card, taking the Barbarians down to 14 men, would sort of hinder England from being able to practice what they wanted to do, playing a 14-man team, but that certainly wasn't how it went. So they got the points for the Thockenham Singer try. Marcus Smith missing another conversion, or another kick rather, I guess is his first conversion that he's actually missed, and I thought that was going to be pretty much half-time going in there. However, just before the end of the half, Damien Pinot getting a try out of nowhere. England were stuck in their own 22. They were trying to pass round. They knew they had the extra man, worth going for it, worth trying to play around. There was quite a poor pass, and I just think Damien Pinot was absolutely in the right move there. Interception try, juggled it about a little bit, only 5 metres from the line, easy to walk over, and what a way just to recover those points that you just conceded. We did get the try from Damien Pinot in the 38th minute, and that conversion was then missed as well by Hastoy. So conversions were certainly a bit of a problem in this game for the main goal kickers from both teams, which was a bit weird. It didn't look particularly blustery. It just looked like quite bad striking from what I could see. But at half-time, we went in 19-11 to the Barbarians. And overall thoughts on the first half, I thought England had a good first 10, but after it began to feel like they were just relying on Marcus Smith, I know I've already sort of said that in this, it really didn't feel like anyone was creating anything. It felt like they were basically waiting for Marcus Smith to do something fabulous, and then someone else was going to capitalise on that, or they were just waiting for the Barbarians to make mistakes and then try and almost perform like a bit of a counter-attack, which didn't really happen that much. There wasn't terrible handling from the Barbarians. It was mainly penalties here and there that was giving up. So those opportunities didn't come around a lot. And when they did, England sort of managed to capitalise on them a bit. The Barbarians' defence was a bit 50-50 in the first half. There were sections where they were brilliant in terms of defence, so really on it. The scramble defence was particularly very good. The last man tackles coming in were some brilliant tackles. But occasionally, when you saw Marcus Smith have the ball, there was a couple of dummy passes bought that felt like absolutely nothing, and it left 3 or 4 players completely out of position. So, yeah, a bit 50-50 there. I'm sure Shaun Edwards would have wanted to have a bit of a team talk at that time. And then the final note I had here was England just struggling in terms of scrummaging, breakdown, and kicking to the post. And if you've watched rugby for a long enough time, there are 3 key areas. Missing penalties and missing kicks just to keep you ticking on that scoreboard is a big issue. The scrummaging seemed to be in a lot of pressure. Until that red card, at least there was a scrum after the red card, which went completely their way. But of course, Barbarians down to 7 men in that scrum. We expected to go that way. But facing the 8-man scrum, they were really beginning to struggle. On to the second half then, and basically the teams just decided we don't want Mad Dragon to be able to create easy graphics, so we'll swap it over, and you can see the difference in what happened in that second half. It just exploded, so we're going to have to do a bit of a speed run because there's so much that went on there. So starting off in the second half, basically the Barbarians did what England did in the first half. They took real control, they got all the way up the pitch. There was a beautiful little kick kicking them right into that 5-metre line. England were struggling to deal with it. Eventually led to a knock-on. We saw the Barbarians get in the scrum time. Scrum didn't go particularly well for them that one again. I think they were still working out what they wanted to do with the red card situation. But it did actually lead. It only took 6 minutes for the try to come in the second half. Coming from Kruis, which was an absolutely lovely try. There was a big break from Tonga, I believe the pronunciation. I don't know a lot about him, but he's got some good leg drives on him. Really powerful player. Managing to smash through the line, took on about 3 or 4 tacklers. Potentially could have got himself. Now that was a big thing. That was one thing we did actually see from England a couple of times, was players desperate to go themselves rather than working as a team, I would probably say. Now, Tonga made great ground. He was only about 3 or 4 metres away from that try line, but decided to go to ground himself, let the ball recycle, and then Kruis, there was easily like a 4-on-1 man overlap, did the little show and go, went for the try straight under the post, nice and easy. And this is where we get to see the first of 3 conversions from George Kruis. Not many locks get to say they had a hat-trick of conversions. Not many locks get to say they scored more than Marcus Smith in terms of actually getting kicks over the post. But a nice little conversion from him, taking Barbarians 26-11, just 5 minutes into the second half. About 5 minutes later in the 51st minute, we did get to see Johnny May scoring his try, coming back into this international squad. Now, he did have a yellow card a little bit earlier on, so come back, got him, be able to redeem yourself a bit. England on the all-out attack, they were probably quite unhappy to have conceded that try early on in that second half. Again, Marcus Smith running the show. It was all Marcus Smith. It just felt like for so much areas, unless it was a winger breaking through the line, it really felt like it was Marcus Smith doing all the work. Basically, they managed to carry the ball. Good few carries, good few leg drives. A couple of chances they could have got over the line. There was actually really good defence on the line from the Barbarian squad. It's what we sort of expect with a Shaun Edwards defence. The on-the-line defence we see in the France international team, it was just as good there. But eventually, pressure begins to give in. There was just enough holes, especially with that red card. Man over, Johnny May goes over for the try. Another conversion miss in this one here from Marcus Smith, so they only managed to recover to 16-26. The immediate response came in from the Barbarians. We see a 55-minute try coming in from Damien Penaud. Just had a fabulous game. Barbarians began to dominate the scrum. They did a bit of switching up. They just got on board with that scrum. They were ready to go again. Some brilliant carries there. Spread the ball wide, and Damien Penaud did get in for the try right in the corner. Now, this was probably one of the ones where it was a bit contestable. They were trying to check whether his foot was actually in touch as the ball went down. Wow, was it close. It was basically the frame before, the ball wasn't down and the foot wasn't in touch, and then the frame into it, the foot was on the line and the ball was down on the line as well. I personally probably think I would have disallowed that try, but I think because the referee had already given it as a try, they needed to prove without a shadow of a doubt it wasn't a try, so I think that's why it was given. That was probably the only contestable try for me. I think maybe that one could have gone the other way, but it counted Damien Penaud getting a nice try there. And the conversion then also missed. So again, only going up with these 5-point increments. They're keeping the teams in it. I mean, if kicking had come into it today and a few more kicks had gone over, you might have been seeing a slightly different scoreboard. But yeah, a couple of kicks there not going their way. In the 60th minute, basically every 5 minutes there was a try. Let's put it that way. Let's speed right through it a little bit. So Marcus Smith getting his try in the 60th minute. Again, we're at 60 minutes. I feel like so far all I'm talking about is Marcus Smith doing stuff for England. And I think that'll be a bit of a concern for Eddie Jones. Marcus Smith getting his try. It was an early surge going through by Tom Curry, who actually had a really good run, to be fair, made good ground there. We did manage to spread the ball wide. It went out to Johnny May, who did have, I believe it was Joe Marchand out on his wing. And Johnny May just didn't give the pass. 2-on-1, took the tackle in. I really felt the try could have come a little bit earlier there. But they did manage to recycle, managed to spread it back wide. And then we saw Marcus Smith going over the try. However, again, did not manage to convert that conversion, which, big surprise. Marcus Smith tends to have a pretty good kicking ratio, but sadly not today. From the 65 minute onward is where we just sort of began to turn into chaos. So we began to see where England had their big issues now. But there was a Barbarians penalty. There was a great exit coming from Damien Penaud, managed to kick all the way down. Good support by Macalou on the wing as well, running a good 50 metres. Not what you expect from the sort of number 8s coming on. Really, really good run from him. They ran up the field. They managed to trap Marcus Smith in his own half. There was a penalty. They kicked it to corner. They had the maul. England, compound issues coming in. This was something that discipline just really wasn't there for England. There was another penalty given at that maul. They kicked it to corner. There was another driving maul. There was another penalty. They kicked it to corner. England just weren't able to deal with the line-out. They weren't able to deal with the maul. And eventually it did lead to a pretty amazing try, to be fair. The ball spreading a little bit wide, went to ground, and we saw a beautiful little chip over from the scrum half going in as Carbonell managing to come in, catch the ball in the dead zone. Marcus Smith just not close enough to top the try. Beautiful little try there. And it was converted as well. So we get to see Barbarians go to 38-21. Such a big score gap. 17 points apart there in the 67th minute. Only about 10 minutes left. Big ask for England to come back from there. England nearly managed to get one back in the 72nd minute. They went all out attack. It was really nice to see. It was a nice string of attack. They actually went through phases. They put it together well. They were finding holes. Johnny Hill managing to get over the try line, but just having a knock on right on the try line. Didn't manage to get the ball down, which was a shame. Barbarians managed to recover. George Kruis decided he was just going to start kicking the ball now because he's a standard fly half out of absolutely nowhere. There was really some quite amazing stuff that then happened there. So in the 74th minute, we had Spring's try, and what an unbelievable try that was from Spring. Spring running from out of his own half. Macalou, the lovely little breakaway, a little pass inside to the scrum half. England defence just absolutely scattered all over the place. There was a scrum half managing to chip over the ball, and Spring managed to collect the ball that he started all the way at the end and get over for a finish. There were some truly fantastic tries in this. In terms of Barbarian-style tries, there were some brilliant ones in these final 10 minutes. Really nice. And then we got to see George Kruis getting another conversion, but this one he decided to do with his back heel. Who told him to do that? How did he learn to practice that? No idea, but he did actually manage to get it over. That saw Barbarians go to 45-21 with only 5 minutes remaining. And they weren't done there. In the 79th minute, we see the final score of the game. It was a try coming in from Hastoy. England had all of the attack in that final 5 minutes. They were really trying to push it through. They just couldn't get that final ball to hand. I think there was at least 3 passes that just didn't make it to the final guy they wanted. Jack Noel had a knock on as well. It was trying to get out to the fullback. They were trying to get to the wings. They were playing inside passes. None of the balls going down. They just couldn't get that final pass. And we just saw this fantastic break again by who else than Damien Penaud. Played absolutely out of his skin in this game. Managed to get the ball out. Niniashvili making a little breakdown. Did get a little bit of a tackle. Did a little somersault because why not? They're in Barbarians territory now. Managed to get a little somersault, running all the way down the line, and then a little pass back inside for Hastoy to get the try. And why not? Let's complete the hat-trick. George Kruis taking the final conversion in the 79th minute to take it to a final score of England 21, Barbarians 52. And that's quite a scoreline, to be honest. I really think England will be incredibly disappointed with this game. Now, there's a couple of things to talk about here. The fact that the Barbarians not only played a fantastic game, they really were organised. They haven't been training along together, and also for a good 45 minutes-ish, they were playing with a red card, playing a man down. There was a section earlier on where McAlew actually took a bit of an injury, and for a period of time they were playing with 13 men. And England just weren't getting over the line. I think Eddie Jones has got a lot of things to work out. Now, obviously, it's not a first-string England side, but there was certainly enough that you'd be expecting them to try and take charge of that game, especially after a red card. I really don't think they'll be too happy with that performance. I think Marcus Smith, Tom Curry, and Thockenham Singer, I would probably say, were the three standouts for me in that England squad. I really don't think anyone was really showing off in any way. We didn't really hear... I didn't even know who was playing inside centre. I just don't hear the lad's name. Johnny May had a bit of an impact, but again, as with Johnny May, as I feel like I've said for a long time with Johnny May, I just feel like Johnny May is a finisher. I've not really seen him in this game yet again. Not really exploding, not really running circles around everyone. He's getting the ball 10 metres from the line, he's getting it over the try line. I guess that's what you want from a winger, but it's not really making that impact. At least Thockenham Singer was absolutely smashing his way through a couple of people. It was really nice to see him make a bit of room. But there are a lot of key areas for England to be worried about. I'm going to be really interested to know what a couple of the England subscribers on the channel thought of the game, because I'd be really interested to get some feedback from an English standpoint. In terms of the actual score breakdown, England scored 3 tries, Barbarians scored 8. 8 tries at an international test level. I know it's a Barbarians game, but God, the defence needs to be better than to concede 8 tries. Number of conversions, England 0. Barbarians 5. 3 of them scored by George Kruis. And then again, like I said, red card for Will Skelton. There was a yellow card for Johnny May. Player of the match, or man of the match, was George Kruis. It was his last game in terms of international rugby, and he did get a hat-trick, including a back heel conversion. So maybe warranted. Personally, for me, I would have gone for Damien Penaud. I think he had an absolutely superb game. Thought he played really well. But I think England got a lot to be worried about. The breakdown situation really wasn't there, including with a couple of big players on their team. You've got people like Tom Curry. You've got people like Sam Underhill, Alex Dornbrand. These are big names to have in a team. We had Courtney Laws coming on later in the game. These are big breakdown players, and there were so many penalties conceded at that breakdown. It was really beginning to hindering any England attack. The handling issues that were coming in, we really weren't seeing England being able to pass a good few chain of passes along together. Marcus Smith just felt like the out and out, we hope he does something and we'll try and get something off the back of whatever he does. I think England are in for potentially a long summer. Not what I was expecting at all. 3 games versus Australia coming up now. Of course, they're going to announce their team. We'll do the team breakdown video as we've done for all the other teams on the channel when that eventually comes out. But wow, what an incredible game. Barbarians being barbaric. I mean, that is really what you want to see from the Barbarian squad, playing absolutely brilliantly. I think they deserve to win that game by far. I didn't realise it was going to be such a tough ask. A number of Tier 1 French players in there, especially with Galtier and Sean Edwards also in the coaching staff. Yeah, we expect them to be doing well, but they really played like a France team. They didn't play it just like an out-and-out Barbarians claim. They played it like a test match, and I think that's probably more useful to an England side, rather than just watching a team chucking wild passes around. They really wanted to see what a structured game was, and the structured game versus them, even with a 14-man team, England still weren't able to hold out. And then after the Barbarians decided they'd had enough of being structured and played like a Barbarians team, England still couldn't handle it. And the broken open play really began to show all those weaknesses in that England defence. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this England team. I think Eddie Jones will be worrying a little bit on the ropes. But there we have it, guys. That's going to be the match report for today. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave this video a like. I'm so glad I get to talk a little bit more about international rugby. Hopefully we'll be doing a few more of these when it comes on to the July International, so make sure you are subscribed just to keep up to date with all the latest videos as they come out. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this game. Make sure you do drop it down in the comments. And for anyone who didn't get to see it, I definitely recommend checking out the highlights just to see some of the tries that happened in this game. Truly quite amazing stuff. But I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.